We are live.
Okay.
I am Ellen Wojtek, and this is my podcast, Quality and You. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we are sorry that we could not go to the original Facebook Live event that we had planned. There were a lot of technical difficulties.
Turns out coast to coast is difficult.
Yes, Brittany, our guest, Britt Waldman, who is a longtime friend of mine, is joining us today from Washington. So East Coast to West Coast can affect the quality of your video, just so you all know for future reference. It doesn't do good with Facebook.
No.
So thank goodness for the alternative Skype that we have spent literally 4 days trying to learn.
But those third graders, they got it down.
Those third graders have it down for virtual schooling for sure. We may need to take lessons next time. We're trying to teach you how to build quality within yourself, but we cannot work Skype.
We all have our faults.
We do. So I will start just by briefly, and I already went into this last week, so I won't go into it in depth, but briefly explaining to you all what this podcast is. The last episode that I did was more personal and just kind of about me and my journey and why I was starting a podcast. So I'm really excited for this one. You know, this is the first time we've had a guest on. This is really episode 1 of what it's all about, which is helping you. The goal is to share different types of life experiences through different people and how they went through those experiences and came out on the other side. Things that they used to help them come through them, to help them stay happy, to help them stay hopeful. And our goal is that you may be able to take something from that and use that in your life through your own experience, maybe similar to one that we have went through ourselves. Today is specifically focused around health, and even more specifically around cancer. Brittany and I have been friends since 2016, and that was right about your diagnosis time. You hadn't been diagnosed long after we became friends. And well, basically, I'm just going to let her, we'll start with how we met, and then we're going to go into her story. And hopefully you guys can take something from this, whether you're battling with that particular health issue or just an illness in general, you can still use some of these techniques and some of the, the ways that she used to cope and deal to try and get through it in your own way as well. So, Brittany.
Yeah.
We met, and I'm going to just let you take it, and I'm not going to interrupt you like I always do.
That's okay. So we both have worked for the post office. I continue to do so, but we met working at the Charleston, West Virginia PNDC. We both were going through some big changes at the time and ended up on light duty.
Yes.
Where we found out that pregnancy and chemo treatments have the same side effects.
It is the same. Yeah. You sometimes experience the same emotional drops and the same changes in your body.
It's a very interesting time to realize that something that is affecting your body in a way where it's killing cells also the same side effects where you're creating new life. So pretty interesting from a scientific standpoint.
That's an excellent way to look at it as well. I hadn't really thought of that before, but definitely, aside from me growing, I think everything was a pretty shared experience.
Well, it's a common misconception that cancer patients lose weight. They put us on steroids where you want to eat everything. So.
Yeah. Well, since we kind of have went over how we met, and we've been friends since then, very, very close friends. She's actually more like family now. than anything. My kids just love her to death. So I'm just going to jump right in, Brittany, because, I know that I can just kind of ask you whatever I want, and you'll either answer or tell me to shut up and move on to the next question.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I want you to tell me the event that led up to your diagnosis, and your official, medical diagnosis, and what prompted you to go to the doctor.
All right. So just to start off, to get official diagnosis out of the way, when I was initially diagnosed in February of 2016, they gave me a misdiagnosis. And that one originally was Langerhans cell histiocytosis. I cannot spell it, so please don't ask me to.
You pronounced
However, it's a rare disease that can affect your nervous system and your brain. So I was excited right off the bat. But my official diagnosis after sending samples to Cleveland Clinic is stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a pretty common cancer, and according to many nurses I've had, the good cancer.
Okay. The good.
So, the good cancer. So what happened was in January 2016, Kate, do you remember the big snowstorm in Charleston?
Okay, so I'm going to say yes, but then I have to...
Not really.
But I have to back up because Brittany and I previously recorded just a little section of this podcast to make sure that we could actually use, Skype, that we had just learned how to deal with everything. And she asked me this question, and I was like, no, why would I remember that day?
Yeah, a very specific day, January 20th.
Yes. Apparently, I have now been informed that it was like 20 inches of snow in Charleston, West Virginia. And we're pretty sure the reason that I didn't know this was because I probably called in that day.
So while you were at home, me and the plant manager were running DPS mail.
A wise decision on my part.
Probably. But so after I got home from work, I went and shoveled snow for probably 8 hours, myself and a couple others at my apartment complex. After that was over, I started having some chest pains, and like any reasonable person, I just spent 8 hours shoveling snow. It probably pulled a muscle or something. It had gone on for about 2 weeks or so. And one night at work, I was carrying a tray of mail, which could weigh up to about 5 pounds, so it's not heavy. And I dropped the tray because the pain in my chest was so bad. And I grabbed my chest while it happened. And one of the supervisors had walked by when it was going on and asked me if I was all right. And I said, yeah, I think so. I just need to sit down for a minute. So I worked the rest of the night, of course, and that's what we're told to do. And
pregnant, they'll send you home. Tell them you're next time.
I'll remember that. So I went to bed that night, and I was pretty afraid to go to sleep because I thought maybe I was going to have a heart attack. Like it was pretty bad chest pain. When I woke up the next morning, I was on the phone with someone, and I couldn't even breathe to get through a sentence. So I'm like, okay, I might as well go to urgent care. Like this is pretty bad if it's a pulled muscle. Maybe I tore something. I don't know. So I go in and being myself, I said, hey, I'm having chest pains, but I don't really think it's a heart attack or anything. I'm only 26, whatever. And they're like, well, you said it, so we got to do the workup. Okay. Go through the EKG and the chest x-rays and all of that stuff. And the guy that comes in, I can never remember his name, but I know his face if I saw him again. Older gentleman came in and looked terrified. He said, I hate to tell you this, but you have a tumor the size of a grapefruit sitting between your heart and lung. And at 26, you're just like, well, all right, where do we go from here?
Yeah, exactly.
So he actually called and set me up with a cardiologist to get a biopsy done, but that was going to take about a week. Mm-hmm. And at the time, somehow it worked out that my mom was detailed to a job in the post office in Charleston as well. So she was actually around and able to be there, which was pretty cool. Like, otherwise she would have been about 3.5, 4 hours away.
Yeah.
So she came over, and of course, you know, I told her what was going on, and it was pretty emotional. My grandpa had passed away about 10 months earlier from lung cancer. So, and that took a toll on all of us. So it was a really difficult conversation to have. But I will let you know, the first call I made was to the post office to tell them I couldn't come into work that day.
If that does not qualify you for a bonus. Hopefully, I'll take a bunch of like supervisors in this video so they know your question just runs to the core.
Brittany Hundle, please remember that I called you to tell you I had a tumor.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I know that you and I are constantly laughing and joking, and you know, literally we can make anything funny. Literally. I mean, this conversation, you know, but in all seriousness, I know you were scared shitless.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but there's just no other way to say it.
Yeah, and I was scared, but the one thing I wanted to know for sure was, as long as it's not in my brain, I think I'll be okay. So until I knew that for sure, yeah, I was scared.
Yeah. So now we know, you know, what your diagnosis is and what prompted you. I'm actually going to click you here. It kind of froze. So let me see.
Yeah, you're okay. I was going to say you're frozen too, but I didn't want to mess something up.
No, you're all right. Did it clear up?
Not quite.
Okay. Well, it should. I mean, I can still hear you perfectly, and you're smiling. Okay. Picture, so.
That works. That's fine.
So getting a diagnosis like that, and you know, talking to the doctors, did they immediately after your biopsy and everything? Okay, you're back. Okay, I see you now. All right, after your biopsy, you know, and they came in and gave you that diagnosis, were there treatment options available? And if so, what were your thoughts, like your initial thoughts on those? Were you one of those people that were just like, you know, anything to, you know, that you recommend, or did you kind of have some reservation about maybe some of the treatments that you were presented with?
Well, I will say, because I was already at stage 3, so the urgency was there. So I understand why they were like, okay, it was very regimented. It was, this is the protocol. This is what we're going to do. And I didn't really question it, because it just seemed like, okay, I guess this is just what I have to do.
Right. I would have done the same.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because, I mean, it's something you don't know anything about. And when you're going in, you expect them to know everything. So you're like, well, I guess, okay, you have a process. Let's go.
Yeah. What was the treatment that they recommended for you?
So the first treatment I had, I've been through a couple, was called ABVD, which is 4 different types of chemo. So I would go every 14 days I would have treatment. So every other Friday I would go for 5 hours and have chemo IVs, and then I would recuperate for 2 days, and then I would go again every other Friday. So I did that for 6 months.
My goodness, Brittany.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were your treatments, did they differ back to back, or did you have was there a period in between where they were like, okay, this is working or this isn't working, or is it just standard to combine all those different types of treatments?
It's like the standard process is that treatment for 6 months. So what they do is 2 months into the treatment, they scan you. And my tumor had actually shrunk. So they were like, okay, this is great. Like, this is working.
Yeah.
We'll just continue to do this. So we did that, and my treatment ended. My very last treatment was September 2nd of 2016, which was also the day that I became a regular with the post office.
You have lived a bad.
You know, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you cannot. Not with that kind of stuff.
So everything. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you were skipping a little over top each other.
Oh, you're all right. No, go ahead and finish.
So everything seemed to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wasn't on any treatment. It's kind of, sorry, it's kind of fuzzy, the in between. But around October of 2016, I was having trouble breathing again, and I was on like 3 different inhalers. So I ended up getting another scan, and they saw that the tumor had grown, and you could actually feel it under my chest. Like, you could feel the bump in my chest from it.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, I got hospitalized overnight. My mom was in a rage, understandably, that they hadn't scanned me after treatment and waited so long. They waited about a month.
Ooh.
So then I went in, and I had 2 treatments to do, and it's called ice or rice. It depends on which chemo they give you, which is 24 hours of treatment, and then for 3 days, and then once a month. So I did the 2 of those. And when that had shrunk the tumor again, I was sent to a doctor in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay.
So that's when they decided to do the stem cell transplant, because none of the chemo, my body was metabolizing chemo too fast. Like, it wouldn't stay in my body long enough to treat.
And just for anyone that might be going through this, and you don't have to go into great detail with it or anything, but just how did you feel through chemo? And were there any like particular things that you did to help you feel better, or anything that you noticed made you feel a little better while you were going through that treatment?
Get as much rest as you can, because I didn't. Like, when I was going through the first 6 months, I would work 11 days and then take 3 days off, work 11 days, take 3 days off. So working that whole time was probably not the best thing. I didn't give my body a chance to rest and, heal itself like I should have.
Yeah.
But as far as like diet and everything, it's really tricky, because you want to eat the things that you love to make you feel better, because we all, like everybody, food makes you feel good, especially comfort food.
Absolutely.
But your taste buds and your sense of smell all change through chemo. So you can end up hating the things that you love because they taste different. Or you get sick eating something that you love. I wouldn't eat bananas for about 2 years because I got sick after eating a banana once.
Really?
Yeah.
I had heard that it affected, like, I knew that it could affect things as far as, my mom did hair for years, and some of the chemo patients that she recovered, cancer patients, when their hair grew back in, it grew in different color and different texture, and was just totally different than what they had before. So I knew that it could affect some things, but I didn't know that it went as far to affect, the types of food that you had liked, and then, change your taste buds.
There's so many things that people don't realize it affects, like taste and smell. Like, if I smell hospital soap still now, I want to get sick. Like, I can't stand the smell of it. But teeth and nails, because it affects your enamel. So my teeth are like more brittle and softer. I have to do, make sure I go to the dentist and take care, because if I get a cavity, it could become a chipped tooth very easily. My nails had to grow back in. They never fell out, but they became very rigid and very thick, which is weird. But yeah, it affects even the smallest things. The worst thing though is losing your nose hair and eyelashes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, all the dirt in your nose and your eyes can't get filtered. You can't filter it because it's not there. Like your filters aren't there anymore. So that was interesting.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I hate that you had to go through that, and that anyone that is going through that has to do that. Um, ugh, which you know that I've offered to give you my kidney and my bone marrow.
Several times, yes.
And I would do it.
Oh, I know.
So while going through all that diagnosis and treatment, what thoughts and actions were you able to apply to your life to keep hope, to keep happiness, and to keep fighting? Like your top motivational tools.
That's a tough question. It really is. One of the best things though was like when people didn't treat me any differently. Like I didn't want to be treated like I was fragile. And of course, some people treat you that way, and it's warranted in some situations. But like with you and a couple other people at work that have become family, basically, you guys treated me exactly the same. And, I was able to joke around with you guys and have the dark humor and everything. And that kind of makes it a little easier to get through.
Yeah, I am.
And I'll definitely say, like, I've been treated at several different facilities. The nurses are incredible. I cannot give enough praise to oncology nurses, because what they do every day is insane. All of their patients are critical care, basically, especially right now.
Oh yeah.
But I love every single one of them. So, and they know that because I would take them donuts and cookies all the time. So you are welcome.
Shout out. My favorite thing to do to you while you were going through all of this was when you would tell me things and then I would force a loving hug.
Yeah. Listen, you're not alone there. Just talk to my mom or my sisters, and they will tell you that you have to force me to love you a little bit at first.
It's worth it. It's worth it. So, I do want to ask you, because we have so many people, that will be watching this, and, and the purpose of it is to help them. And, I think just hearing your experience, especially for someone that maybe just got diagnosed and hasn't went through the treatment process yet and stuff, kind of hearing almost like a heads up.
Yeah.
I really think that it's going to help. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the best things I ever did was find a new doctor. If you realize that your doctor does not suit you, it is extremely important to find one that does. The first doctor I had in Charleston, probably a brilliant man, probably extremely well versed in medicine, but we didn't mesh well. So I didn't even feel comfortable asking him questions, which is not what you want in a process like this. So I'm just sitting in the room saying, okay, every time he asks questions, yes, no, okay. Right. Do you have anything to add? No. Okay. So it was very methodical, but I absolutely loved my doctor in Morgantown. I'm upset. Like, part of the reason I was hesitant to move was because I would have to leave my team in Morgantown, and everybody there has been incredible for the 3 years that I was treated there. And it made such a difference being comfortable talking to my doctor and having conversations outside of cancer, builds a relationship with someone where you do feel comfortable asking them anything. So that's huge. If you need to feel comfortable, and I think that would apply to any doctor you have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point, and people need to really know that it's okay. It's okay to it's not about hurting someone's feelings. This process and this time and what you're going through is about you, and you need to feel comfortable, especially with the person that's providing your treatment. And laying out your plan for your life as you go through it. So, if you had to name a couple of things that you would say to people currently undergoing treatment, things to watch out for, or like maybe other than, like switching to doctor, what would those be and why?
Stock up on popsicles or something of that nature, because oddly enough, chemo can scar up your mouth and it affects your taste buds. And even when you don't feel like eating, at least a popsicle gives you something. Like, I didn't even want to drink water, and that at least gives you some kind of something in your body. Yeah. So definitely keep that in mind.
Popsicles
or pickle juice to get the taste of metal out of your mouth.
Oh yeah, that's it. Pickle juice. If you take nothing else from this podcast, pickle juice and popsicles.
Pickle juice and popsicles. Find something that brings you comfort, and relieves stress. For me, one of the things I like to do is play Xbox, and it sounds so simple, but that's a chance, I can sit there and totally turn off my brain and not have to think about anything. So just find something that you can do that you don't have to think about anything else, because it does take a toll on you mentally, and you need to give your entire body a break, not just your, physical body, but mentally too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm actually talk a little bit about that when we get finished, before the podcast ends. There's a doctor that I am going to recommend for anyone going through this, really anyone in general. You don't have to be going through anything, that talks about the mind and body coherence and how, your thoughts affect how you feel, and then that affects your state of being. So, but before we get on to that, so I have this written down. The most important things to keep with you, to keep near. So I didn't really know if, and I know this is totally opposite ends of the spectrum, but, when I was pregnant with my girls, you keep like a bag near you towards the end to take with you to the hospital and things like that. Is there anything like that you tried to keep near you just in case you would have to go, or things you would take with you that, were beneficial to have there at the hospital?
My sister and my mother were incredible during cancer treatments, and my sister and mom put together a bag for me. So my little backpack was hand sanitizer. So I've been carrying around that since 2016, before it was cool. Headphones to listen to podcasts while I was getting treatment, coloring books, stuff like that. Anything I could do to, pass the time for the 4 hours, which usually I just slept because I was so tired from work. Right. But it had all kind of good stuff in there. Candies to take the taste out of my mouth from the saline washes and stuff like that. So anything that can make you feel brings you a little comfort while you're getting treatment is good to take with you.
We'll keep you a little bag near, little bag.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your life now and future plans. I'm actually really, I'm so, I don't like to say proud, because I just, keen on that word, but I'm so happy for you and some of the stuff that's came to fruition. How do you say it? Fruition?
Something like that, yeah.
That word. I'm so happy for you and all that's came to light for you this year with your big move and your new job, kind of new job with the same company. You'll never leave the post office. And
Probably not.
and you've got your pet Buckeye that it's just adorable. But let's talk a little bit about that and how the cancer has just kind of, I don't hear you talk about it as much and stuff. So how is that affecting your life now that you are, in remission? Are you considered in remission this whole time?
Yeah, so for about 2.5 years now, I've been in remission after a clinical trial. But with that trial, every 3 months I have to go get scans to make sure I'm good and, the tumor's not growing back or anything. So that does bring anxiety, when I know one of those scans are coming up, or if I have a little bit of cough or whatever's going on. So now it's either COVID or cancer, which is fun. But
oh goodness.
I try not to think about it too much because it's just at this point, like, I've gone 2 years, so I should be okay now.
Okay. So there's like a window?
Yeah, so after 5 years of being in remission, they consider you cancer-free.
Gosh, you're almost halfway there.
Almost halfway, yes.
Woo! I'll bring you cupcakes and pizza.
Awesome. Yes, they don't have good pizza out here. The West Coast pizza is terrible.
Ugh. I know when I was in California several years back, it's totally off subject, but just because we were talking about food, I couldn't find any like franchise restaurants that we have here. Like all there was like Taco Bell, which I stayed like if it goes that way, but there was just Taco Bell, and I enjoy eating at locally owned restaurants when I'm traveling, but
Yeah.
sometimes it does like Pizza Hut or Domino's.
Sometimes you want that comfort of home. So Kelsey Cooper, this is a message to you. They do have Applebee's here in Seattle. You can come visit.
Applebee's. Well, I'm tickled to death that you have made that move over there and that you're happy there. It's that was a big moment when you called me.
It was.
Considering. So speaking of life now, and we've got COVID going on, and I actually wasn't going to bring this into it, but are there different like protocols that you have to follow in terms of keeping yourself safe since you are in remission? Are you more susceptible to, I mean, of course, I'm sure you are.
Right, yeah. So I would definitely be in the high risk category. So it's kind of nice that my new job is in an office with one other person. So I'm not around a lot of people all day. Definitely wear my mask if I'm out in public, wash my hands, carry hand sanitizer on me, stuff like that. The nice thing about Washington State is there's so many national parks, trails, stuff like that to do. So when I'm outside, I don't wear my mask as much, but if I'm around other people, like, I definitely do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're staying safe.
Yeah.
So as far as future plans,
yes.
Other than continuing to be cancer-free,
fingers crossed.
How do you in your life now, when you think about the anxiety that comes along with having to get rescanned and things like that, what are some things that you do to cope with all of that, to cope with that anxiety and to stay focused on, okay, I'm 2 years without cancer, so how do you stay positive and hopeful in your current state?
Usually, I feel okay about it as long as, like, physically I'm feeling okay. So, other than, like, a cough from allergies and stuff like that, as long as I'm feeling okay, like, my mind is all right, there always is a little bit of anxiety, and I don't think that'll ever go away just because you cancer could always come back. Like, you're never 100% safe from it. Um, I guess I try to take some time to myself and, like, just decompress more than I normally would. And usually I'll get pretty quiet and not talk to many people during that time just because, like, I'm trying to not let their outside influence drive my anxiety up, because the questions about it and stuff like that kind of make me more anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, speaking of how you said that as long as you're feeling okay, your mind stays pretty clear. We're coming to the end of our conversation here, so I want to that will lead into really well. There's a doctor that I've actually mentioned to Brittany before, Dr. Joe Dispenza. His last name is spelled Dispenza, and his YouTube videos and everything are free. He also has a website, several podcasts on Spotify, and I'm sure other outlets you can plug his name in and find his stuff. He's written several books. He is a New York Times bestselling author. I actually have one of his books here, Becoming Supernatural. This is an excellent book. And this doesn't have to apply to if you're going through an illness right now. This can just apply to your life. But since we are focused on, illness and coming through it, he has been a doctor for 30 plus years. He studies quantum physics and the mind and body coherence. And basically what he teaches is the foundation of his idea comes from thinking is the language of the mind. Feelings are the language of the body. So with that, how you think and how you feel create your state of being. And I could take that into a million different directions. But, as far as this, they did a study of people that were ill with just different illnesses. And 95% of those people tried his meditation techniques. And of those 95 people, or of those people, 95% of, how did I say that just now? Hold on. They did a study and had people of different illnesses practice this thinking and feeling and that being your state of being. 95% of those people were 50% better in their immune system health after doing his study. So basically their immune system boosted 50% after doing his meditations. So I really think that has a lot to do with this. A lot of people practice meditations and things like that to find, I know I did, to find self-worth and inner peace and to make yourself feel better in general. So he has taken that and the medical and science aspect and combined them so that you're able to apply that for when you're going through something like Brittany's went through. So with her techniques and then his techniques, I really think that could be a great addition to anyone that might be struggling through a similar experience. Might help you get through the circumstance that you're facing. And his stuff's all free. So, I would take what Brittany said and take my pickles and popsicles and head on over to YouTube. Dr. Joe. Oh goodness, the stuff that we can come up with.
I guess to kind of piggyback on that is, if you look at cancer patients, look at the kids that rebound from more serious diagnoses where older people don't. I think kids in general are happier and have a better outlook in general, so they kind of rebound faster and recover quicker.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's a lot of testimony videos on there of people that have used his techniques. And, it's really miraculous to watch and to see how just applying what he teaches to your thought process, how that can affect the way that you feel. And by bringing those more of a positive emotion, and I know that, telling somebody to stay positive or to try and think positive while they're going through treatments is difficult, but he explains it in such a way that it doesn't seem too far-fetched. It really is doable, and there's people doing it, and they're coming through on the other end. There was one girl that had cancer all over her entire body, and she did these techniques for a year, and she is a year and a half completely cancer-free. And her last diagnosis, they told her, there's nothing else we can do for you, and you need to prepare for death. And she did these, and she's cancer-free. So I really don't think that it's too far-fetched to think that this stuff works. I keep sharing the videos to Brittany. I'm like, just meditate. Just do it.
and we all know I can't sit in quiet, so it's tough to meditate.
Yeah, randomly she just gets these random things, and I'm like, here's a guided one. They're talking. Just try it out. But anyway, before we go, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want to thank Brittany. I love you dearly.
I love you too.
You enough for telling your story and for providing my viewers with just this incredible message about your journey and all that you've came through. And I find it extraordinary, really, that you are such a happy person and that you are able to just keep that intact the whole time. I really admire that about you.
Thank you, Kate.
Don't cry.
It's the pickles and popsicles.
So before we head out, again, thanks everybody for joining us today. We will be next week. I'll be doing my own on forgiveness of self, and it just kind of talks about. I'll be talking about how to overcome some of the mistakes and regrets that you have in your life, because we have all done things that we wish we hadn't or that we wish we could change, and the process that I use to overcome those certain things. So, Brittany, to anyone going through cancer, do you have any last message that you'd like to send us off with?
Man, I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I wish that we would come up with different terms other than warrior and fighter and stuff like that, because that doesn't have to apply. Like, you can feel like crap and tell people you feel like crap.
Yeah.
I think well, I think the conversation around it, like when you come up with fighter, warrior, and then lost their life to cancer, you're putting the stigma on it that people have to be like on point all the time. But you're allowed to feel like crap and have days where you just lay in bed all day. Trust me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't really think about that until you mentioned that, but that's a very good message. So I'll not call you a warrior anymore.
Thank you.
Well, I love you dearly, and I love all of everybody that has joined. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you take something away from this. I mean, I'm not even going through anything like that, and I have taken something away from it. So I hope that it helps you in your journey. And if you are struggling with an illness, many blessings and peace and love to you. And I hope that you come out on the other end, as well as my great friend Brittany here. So,
thank you for having me, Kate. I love you. Just two last things I have to say. Please go register to vote and vote. Please, please, please. It's extremely important.
Yes, go vote. The deadline for I'm in West Virginia, so the deadline for West Virginia is October 13th to register to vote. make sure you go do that. You know, I'm not going to get into the political side of it. Brittaine knows how I feel, and I know how she feels, but your voice matters. And it's very, very important that you take action and that you get up and you go out and put your mask on, be safe, and go vote.
Yeah.
So that was very good, Brittaine. I'm glad you plugged that in. Do you want to?
Well, you know, maybe I'll take over for you one day.
That would be really good. All righty. Well, all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And I'll call you in just a little bit.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I stopped recording.